All right. Just double check. Text. Yeah, he hasn't. All right, everybody, give me a couple minutes here. I'm just gonna try and call Steve, just to make sure you know.
I made it.
All right. So we made it. I just didn't want to start the meeting and then have you bump in. Meeting hasn't
Sorry.
been officially. No, it's all good. The meeting has not been officially started. So
Okay.
here we go. 7:31 p.m. Welcome everybody to the March 14th, 2025 edition of the
March
Rockland.
18th. March 18th. I don't know if it matters.
Oh, my bad. March 18th of the Rockland Zoning Board of Appeals. All members are participating remotely. That would be Greg Tanzi, myself, Rob Rosa. That would be Robert Baker Sr. That would be Robert Baker Jr. and Mr. Stephen Galley that I'm going to put up here in my crew. There we go. What everybody should know is that the meeting is being televised at this point. It's being recorded and live streamed. From there, I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Do I second?
Second.
I got a second right there. Roll call, Mr. Tanzi.
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Mr. Baker Sr.
Yes.
Is a yes. Mr. Baker Jr.
Yes.
Is a yes. And Mr. Galley.
Yes.
Meeting is open. All right. So let me get to the legal. Read it. Okay, 7:30 p.m. Remotely conducted continuance public hearing will be held by the Rockland Zoning Board of Appeals on Tuesday, March 18th. Yep, there we go, 2025 at 7:30 p.m. on the petition submitted by N&M RE Holdings LLC, 1250 Long Pond Road, Brewster, Mass. Care of Grady Consulting LLC of Kingston, Mass. And attorney Jeff DeLisi from Orenberger DeLisi LLP of Situate, Mass. For a special permit pursuant to zoning bylaw 415-16C.6, manufacturing, assemblage, processing, and storage operations that are not offensive by reason of the emission of odor, fumes, dust, smoke, noise, and or vibration, or that would have negative impact on the environment or conditions within the town or adjacent towns. 415-79 environmental performance centers, 415-80 general performance standards, and 415-89 special permits, and a use variance pursuant to zoning bylaw 415-5 interpretation of Union Street through a residential zoning district, and to construct a 7,000 square foot warehouse and contractor yard, and for storage of materials in an industrial zone. The location of the premises is known as and numbered 1119 and 1059 Rear Union Street, Rockland, Mass. 1119 Union Street is located in both the R2 Residence Zoning District, Section 415-9, and the I2 Residential Industrial Park Zoning District, Section 415-16 of the zoning bylaw, and is further identified as Lot 60, Map 18, on the Rockland Assessors Maps. 1059 Rear Union Street is located in the I2 Industrial Park Zoning District, Section 415-16 of the zoning bylaw, and is further identified as Lot 61, Map 18 on the Rockland Assessors Maps. The owner of both properties is N&M RE Holdings LLC, 1250 Long Pond Road, Brewster, Massachusetts, 02631. Okay. Kevin, I didn't see anything about a water park. So,
Sorry. We
okay.
have to have contractors to build one of those.
Okay. So, unfortunately, and I do apologize, the last meeting had to be continued. We did not have, we did not have enough people to really be able to make a decision on this.
No problem.
So here we are. I know that both myself and Mr. Baker Jr. Filed the appropriate documentation. We watched the meeting just to see what happened, because you got to do that. That gives us the ability to vote. And just to make certain, when it came to repeating the date for tonight's meeting, I did say March 14th. That's the date that the town clerk stamped it in. It's not the date of the meeting and what date the meeting was published to be on. So just making sure we got that all taken care of. At this point, I am going to turn it's actually, I don't know who I'm going to turn it over to. Kevin, do you want to start, or Attorney DeLisi, do you want to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
So good evening, Kevin Grady from Grady Consulting, along with Attorney Jeff DeLisi and Bob Murray, Dean Negotia. Them are in the room here with me. As you know, we submitted application a few months ago. We had a meeting and we've had to refile. Don't really need to get into all the details there yet, but we'll probably cross that at some point. I'll give a brief overview of the site plans and general layout. I'm mostly going to discuss the special permit that was filed for the outdoor storage of materials. And then Attorney DeLisi will present the use variance application. Is it all right if I share my screen?
Absolutely.
Everybody see that okay?
There it is.
Yep.
Okay. Again, we went over this, so I'm at length. I believe we actually ran out of time in the day at our last meeting, and the Zoom dropped off. So I think we actually discussed this project for about 4.5 hours previously. But it was a little while ago, so I'll do a little refresher. So as you said, the site is on Union Street, 1119 Union Street, which is located here, and 1059, which is here. I'm going to zoom in just a little for you. The overall site plan is for the construction of a contractor, warehouse, and office, shown in brown here. That's an allowed use in the district. The special permit request is for the outdoor storage of materials, which is intended to be the area of these bins here. The site, as you indicated in the opening, is partially in the residential R2 district. I'm just going to zoom in a touch more, which is this section of the property here. This front section along this frontage. The majority of the property is located in the I2 district, as denoted by this dashed dot line here, and then again going down the lot line behind Warren Ave. Residential district out here, industrial district here. The applicant is proposing to access the site off of Union Street. Union Street is a 50-foot wide way with 33-foot wide pavement. It's wide enough and accessible enough. It's flat and straight and is appropriate for larger vehicles to gain access to throughout the town, really, but also down to this end of Union Street. Loretta, Ward, Lavina, they're 40-foot wide ways with roughly 20 to 22 feet wide pavement, and there's a circuitous, a circular route to gain access to the property. They are public ways. There are rights to access your property from public ways. But the preference right now is to utilize the wider paved area. I provided zoning data detailing conformance with setbacks, parking requirements, use, etc. Just go to the existing right now. It contains the remnants of a residential structure. The intention is to remove that residential structure. That's located here on Union Street. The light blue line with dots within it is the wetland resource area on the site. So there's two main upland areas, one here to the southwest, and then another one up here in the northeast. Applicants proposing to construct a 7,000 square foot building here. 24-foot wide access road through the property to storage bins and yard. Where, as I indicated, we're showing plenty of parking. These types of uses for contractors don't typically need a lot of parking spaces. Zoning bylaws don't always have the best fit for parking requirements for various uses, but we're showing that we have more than what is required. We've taken a look at stormwater a bit. We're proposing to connect to town sewer and town water as part of this. Couple of things that we're also proposing to provide some aesthetics and some barriers between the proposed use and the existing abutting properties. We're proposing a row of evergreens here. The site is proposed to be surrounded by an 8-foot high privacy fence along the perimeter. We're proposing to maintain a 10-foot wide undisturbed woodland buffer between the proposed use and the industrial district here, where it abuts the residential district. We are proposing a 30-foot wide, 32 feet to the fence, but a 30-foot wide undisturbed buffer there, as required by your zoning bylaw. There is some encroachment from the abutters from Warren Ave beyond their lot lines, and also the sewer was installed there. So some of the woodland in this area is thinned out. You can see the proposed tree line here, or the existing tree lines are here. And we're looking to add some evergreens through there to add some more screening in that area. We're proposing a bit of a access way, a little bit a wetland fill area. The wetland fill will need to be approved by the Conservation Commission by a notice of intent. Currently, we're under the 5,000 square foot threshold, so we don't need a water quality certification. Conservation commissions are allowed to allow up to 5,000 square feet of wetland fill without a water quality certification. Clearing the rear area and also doing some drainage eventually. That's we're showing also that adequate turning for emergency vehicles on this last sheet here. So that's generally what we are proposing to do. Again, the special permit that's before you is for the outdoor storage materials. And we submitted a brief on how we comply with that. The storage of materials is proposed to be within these bins and in this area, set back from the abutting residences. The materials typically are aggregates, loam, mulch, typical site contractor, landscape yard type materials. With the setback and the 8-foot fence and the evergreens, we believe what we're proposing protects the abutters from offensive uses by the reason of emission, odor, fume, dust, and storage of materials, vibration, noise, smoke. So I can go through the performance standards. We went through them previously. Environmental performance standards. So 415-79 is environmental performance standards. Number one, compliance with all dimensional requirements. We comply with all horizontal dimensional requirements. We are requesting a variance that Attorney DeLisi will review with you shortly. Number two, providing adequate landscaping, including screening of adjacent residential uses, street trees, landscape, etc. As I indicated, we're proposing fencing and some screening. We're also maintaining the required undisturbed woodland, 10 feet to industrial uses, 30 feet to residential uses. Providing convenience and safety of vehicular and pedestrian movement within the site. We're proposing a 24-foot wide way, which is wide enough for a street that actually has some speed associated with it. This 24-foot wide road within a site, probably 15 mile an hour. Max speed, probably more like 5 or 10. The grades are flat. We got 2.5% to 1.5% grades coming in. We have adequate site distance, 390 feet in one direction. There's actually a 780-foot long tangent line here, so there's significant site distance there. The applicant currently has 8 employees. We provided a trip generation for both 8 employees, and if they expand, 15 employees. The weekday vehicle trips for 8 employees was 40 trips, with 2 truck trips per day. At 15 employees, it's 55 trips per day and 3 total truck trips. As we discussed in the previous hearing, mostly equipment is going to be at a job site. It doesn't necessarily start and end from this property each and every day. There's mobilization costs. N&M doesn't necessarily work nearby often, so they take the smaller trucks, pickup trucks, etc., and don't necessarily bring the larger equipment back and forth every day. There's a mobilization cost with that, so it doesn't really make sense to do that. They will bring it back and do some maintenance, or in between jobs, store those here. Number 4 of the environmental standards is adequate methods to dispose of sewage, refuse, other waste. Again, town sewer, town water. I believe we're showing we've got the dumpster located to the rear of the building, outside the view of any abutters. Number 5, providing adequate stormwater to protect the adjacent properties from adverse impacts from stormwater runoff. We have done an initial review of this we will be going before the planning board and providing them with a more site-specific design, assuming that we can get the approvals we need from the zoning board here. Those site plan, at that point with the planning board will send it out to their peer review consultant who reviews stormwater and also all the other standards for site plan approval. Number 6, providing an adequate soil erosion plan and any plan for protection of steep slopes. We do have erosion controls proposed on the plan. Let me see if I can do them. What will be here? So we have silt socks around the perimeter at the limit of work between the proposed site development and the woodland and also the wetland here. So that silt sock will mitigate any erosion and siltation that may migrate toward the resource area during construction until slope stabilization has taken place. We have wrapped the whole site in that. We will be applying to the Conservation Commission and providing them more detail on the erosion controls. But essentially, we're going to have silt sock wrapped around the site, and we will be protecting the wetland resource area. Number 7 is providing off-street parking and loading. I discussed that a little bit. We have more than enough spaces for this use. 8, providing site lighting, whether interior or exterior. Right now, we're just proposing lights on the building, hooded lamps that just shine straight down. They don't plan on working here at night, so there's no need to light the site. Let's see. Number 9, minimizing any material or significant adverse impacts from steep slopes, floodplains, scenic views, grade changes. There's no steep slopes at the site. Where we are filling, we are going to have riprap that will stay armored across the slope. We're not filling any flood zones. We do have a bit of infill that we are going to do some replication of at least 2 to 1. Looking around too much and trying to stay zoomed and so we're proposing to fill the green areas here. This would be a replication area, so we would turn this into a wetland resource area to offset the loss of wetland there, and also this area here. Number 10, requiring all permits issued under the zoning bylaw be conditioned upon receipt of all other requirements. So we are going to go to Conservation Commission, Planning Board. We got to talk to the Water Department, the Sewer Department, etc. If the zoning board grants the special permit, then you can condition that all other permits be issued prior to finalizing your approval. General performance standard work hours. I believe we talked about Monday through Friday, 7 to 6, Saturdays, 7 to 3:30, no Sundays or holidays. We gave you a list of holidays. I believe you read them into the minutes at the last hearing. We all agreed to those conditions. So I guess I will, with that, I'll ask if you have any quick questions, but mostly I think we should probably move on to Mr. DeLisi's presentation on the variance request. And I'll flip through my screen unless you want to share a screen, Jeff.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's a great idea. Thanks, Kevin. For the board, my name is Jeff DeLisi. I'm a lawyer with Orenberger, DeLisi and Harris out of Situate. I've been involved with this project. Kevin asked me to become involved back in December when round one was kind of wrapping up. So I am aware of the reasons why the board reconsidered the matter and denied it without prejudice based on Attorney Galvin's recommendations. Essentially here, one of the things that's unique about this project is that while we've applied for a use variance, there's nothing in your use table that would indicate that we could not use the residentially zoned land to put a driveway to access the industrial land. Instead, there's an area of your zoning bylaw which is section 5.b, as in baby, and that concerns the interpretation of boundaries. And so this was a pre-existing, this lot was laid out prior to the current zoning delineations of the I2 and the R2 zone. So as you know, this is a approximately 26 acre lot that's split into the two zones, as Kevin had indicated. And of the 26 acres, about 1 acre is located in the residential zone. So you got about 25 acres of industrially zoned property and 1 acre of residentially zoned property. The uses that we're proposing are either allowed as of right, which is the warehouse use in an industrial zone, and that's where the building is going to be located, or allowable by special permit, meaning the outdoor storage of materials. The reason why we're asking for a use variance, it could potentially be interpreted actually as a dimensional variance, but is because of that section 5.b that talks about the interpretation of the two zoning districts. And basically what it says is that if you have a lot like this that's split into two zones, that the regulations applying to the less restrictive district may extend into the more restrictive district by 30 feet. And so I had a healthy discussion with Bob as to what's considered the least restrictive and more restrictive district. And as I first thought it, I thought the industrial zone was the more restrictive district, but I know that Bob thinks the opposite. So we've applied for a variance. Now on this lot, I think Kevin kind of showed that we do have the ability to access the industrially zoned area directly from Lavina Avenue, which is a less wide, more neighborhoody feeling kind of road that is in a network of roads through residential neighborhood. And if we were to do that, as Attorney Galvin indicated at the meeting in December, we would need to go to the planning board to get approval of subdivision control to extend Lavina Avenue into the property to create the required frontage. That's an expenditure that would be quite a bit of money. But we don't think that it's the best utilization of this property. We think that the access off of Union Street is safer. The Union Street itself is a better road. There's plenty of area on our property over our frontage off of Union to create a wide enough road to handle the vehicles entering and exiting the property. And so that's why we're coming in for a variance today from the provision of the zoning bylaw regarding interpreting boundaries that says that you can only use the 30 feet of the less restrictive zone in this circumstance. So what do we need to prove, or what do we need to demonstrate in order to be granted a variance? We need to demonstrate essentially three things. One is that there is a circumstance involving this property that is unusual insofar as it is an unusual soil or an unusual shape or has unusual topography. So that's number one. Number two, we have to demonstrate that a literal enforcement of the zoning bylaw would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the applicant. And three, we need to demonstrate that you can grant relief without a substantial detriment to the public or substantial derogation of the bylaw. And so with respect to the first item, Kevin, I think the third or fourth sheet of your plan set shows the entire lot so that the board can see the actual shape as it comes in off of Union all the way to the rear property line. But essentially, this property has an unusual shape. It enters into the property. You'd have to go straight into the property about 600 feet, and then turn 90 degrees to the right, where it kind of opens up, and then it loops back around towards Union Street. So there's an odd shape, especially when one considers this lot in relation to its size of 26 acres. There are 4 primary kind of wetland networks on the property, as well as a stream. So there are some soil related and topographical related issues that are also kind of present on this site. And so we think that it's unquestionable that we can fulfill that unusual circumstance that involves this property. But, one thing I wanted to impart on the board is that even though this is a single parcel, in a sense, you have to look at it like there's an industrial parcel that's landlocked and a lot that has frontage, because your use requirements apply to one zone, but those use requirements, for instance, that are allowable or allowed in the industrial zone are not allowable or allowed in the residential zone. So this is kind of an unusual circumstance also, where by no fault of ours, the town has imposed this zoning district line that bisects the property. And that kind of gets into the substantial hardship, because if that line didn't exist, we would and if the board were to literally interpret its bylaw and not issue a variance, essentially 25 of the 26 acres, more than 90% of the property, would essentially be unable to be used for the purpose for which it was zoned, unless we went into the planning board and got access through Lavina, and there's no guarantee that that's actually going to happen. So we think that we can meet the substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, component. And then we have, without creating a substantial detriment to the public or derogating the bylaw. And Kevin went through various factors on this site that we're proposing that we think are noteworthy: a privacy fence, vegetative screening, the setback of the building relative to Union Street itself makes it almost unnoticeable. There's a protective drain in the building that's connected to a tight tank so that there's no concern about releases of hazardous substances. Kevin provided an equipment list of what we expect to be utilized on the site. He's placed the bins that are going to hold the materials in a location on the site that's way out of the way of neighborhood activity. There is no processing of materials on site. I think that's really important. Processing of mulch-related materials tends to create unusual odors during the what they call cooking process. That's not going to happen here. Kevin, I think, alluded also to the trip generations on this property being very low, but also off of Union Street, which is quite adequate for this at the end of Union Street, where there really isn't any traffic to worry about. So pulling in and pulling out shouldn't be any issue whatsoever. So, essentially, we don't expect really any impact of a noteworthy event on town services. And so we think that this utilization that we've proposed with this variance accessing through this property, whether you call it a use variance or a dimensional variance, is by far the least impactful to neighborhood activities than the alternative. And so that's why we came in tonight with a variance as opposed to another application with access through a different site for a special permit only. So with that, if the board has any questions, I'm happy to answer. If the board is concerned about time this evening, I do understand that there was a lengthy public hearing back in December and otherwise last year, and we understand the neighborhood has concerns. If the board wanted to impute that testimony into this meeting in order to save time, we certainly understand. It's no reason to be repetitive with things, but I'll leave that to the board for the board's consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney DeLisi. That was a very good presentation. Thank you for leading into that time crunch that we got into the last time. Kevin, can you pull that down, pull the plan down?
Yeah.
Just want to be able to see who I'm talking to here.
Sure.
So we're looking at, again, I believe it was 11:45 that had shut down. I believe that we had all, as a board, we had made a decision that we were always gonna kind of turn things off at 10:30. Board members, do we remember this conversation? I think 10:30 was the number. So I think regardless of where we are, whether we're in the middle of a meeting or if we're in the middle of deliberation, I think that as a board, we can make the decision if it's going to really be a long time after 10:30, or if we don't think it's going to be a very long time after 10:30, we can continue past. So if this does get to 10:30, board members, should we discuss that?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so that's number one. Couple things I wanted before I turn it over to the board. There's just a couple of things that I wanted to get kind of get clear. Kevin, where are you?
Right. So I can't unshare it for some reason.
You can't unshare. Hold on. Let me see if I can. One person, multiple people can share simultaneously. Let me see if I can help you out here.
Thank you.
It's not letting me unshare.
Yes, same, because I can see the share button,
Yep.
but usually has a end share.
Did you try it on your other device?
I'm seeing what you guys are seeing on my other device. So let's see.
Here we go.
What I did was I changed, just a quick one, who can share? I changed it to host only.
Perfect.
I'm gonna change it back to participants, all participants. So when it comes right down to it, if we have to do that, you should be able to do that again. All right, so number one, when it comes to one of the biggest concerns that we had was the traffic. We had talked last time about the traffic, the traffic, counter and how many, and the trip generator or something like that. But we said that the trip generator was a conservative. What the actual was, because the heavy equipment really is only going to be stored, limited time at the site. That trip generator wasn't necessarily accurate. Does that still hold true?
Yeah, I think it's a good conservative generation. But 40 trips a day, divided by 8 hours is, 5 trips, right? And every hour. I think that's pretty conservative. I agree.
Especially if people aren't going to be starting the day there.
Correct.
So I think that that's something that came out at the last meeting that I think that should be taken into consideration to some degree.
Yeah, there's one person that's going to be, 2 people that are going to be at this building, mostly full-time, basically an admin, and then
Yep.
Everybody else is going to go straight to the job most days.
For the most part, yep. All right, that was one thing that kind of struck me that I wanted to make sure that kind of got out there. That's number one. And number two, I'm not trying to tell you your job, Kevin, but you're in natural heritage, right?
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah.
That
You didn't mention that. I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows that we know, and that you are in there. So my question about that is, what's going to be your procedure? If let's just say things go swimmingly for you here, what's your next endeavor?
Sure. So we will apply to both the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board at the same time.
Okay.
When we submit to the Conservation Commission, we'll be filing a notice of intent. And as part of that notice of intent, we will be required to file with Natural Heritage, because this site is mapped as estimated habitat of rare wildlife. So that will start getting them involved with the project. Typically, Natural Heritage, what they do in these circumstances is they allow you to develop 1/3 of the property, and 2/3 of the property are to remain unaltered, and they typically wind up in a conservation restriction so that those unaltered areas will remain unaltered in perpetuity.
Just wanted to bring that up to make sure that everybody knew, that everybody knows that this is a thing, and again, it's not something that's decided here. So just wanted to make sure everybody knew that.
Yeah, you guys will cover that with the section that I indicated earlier, that all of the permits that are required, listed in your approval, should we get one, that they're all required prior to your allowance of construction here.
Okay. So for the following procedure, this is where we normally turn it over to the board members. Do we want to separate the use variance versus the special permit, or can board members ask questions regardless, and then you gentlemen can figure out who can answer the question? Does that work?
Either way is fine with me.
Attorney DeLisi, you're okay with that?
Yeah, however the board would like to do it, that's fine.
All right. With that, I'm going to turn this over to Greg Tanzi. Mr. Tanzi, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I've got one with respect to natural heritage. You say they want to take over 2/3 of the the property and put it into a conservation restriction. My understanding is they want to take over upland area. Is that correct?
No, not necessarily. We do have a mix of upland and wetland here, but what they want us to do is allow for migration of turtles. This is likely, that's the estimated habitat is for the eastern box turtle. So we'll allow for, we'll provide basically tunnels or access through and around the site for them to, be able to migrate across the property safely, not crossing roads, etc. So we do have a mix of upland and wetland. And we do have experience with the abutting property where it was a mix of both upland and wetland as well.
Okay. Because you do technically have two wetland crossings on your property. You're spanning a wetland to an upland area. I think it was either an island or a peninsula, and then you're spanning another wetland section into the northeast upland area of the site. You don't think you're going to have a migration issue with the two wetland crossings?
No, because we'll provide culverts. We'll probably need one in the upland, and we'll probably need one or two in the wetland, based on my experience with natural heritage. And unlike the zoning bylaw, which states, a lot of specific requirements, you have to step back to the front, the side, etc. The regulations are a little bit more subjective when you get to natural heritage, so we will have a bit of a negotiation with them, and we will have some planning to do with them. We don't have a conversation if we don't get any kind of approval from the zoning board. It wouldn't make sense to prepare an entire site plan and go to natural heritage to discuss where we should put the crossings if we don't have any chance of getting a permit. So this is the first step in many, Greg.
Okay. Now, you say you've got the company has about 7 excavators. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And how many trailers?
You guys may want to answer this. I can't tell the difference between an excavator and a trailer on this. I'll say Komatsu, and
I say there's less than 5.
all right, approximately 5 trailers.
Now, do you have bulldozers?
We have one.
One dozer.
One dozer. So 7 excavators, a dozer, number of trailers. Any other equipment?
Like a dump truck, a box truck, a couple shoring boxes, a compactor, and a sweeper.
Yeah, you mean the compactor? That's a rolling compactor?
The walk behind.
Oh, okay. All right.
Oh, and there's a 54-inch wheeled roller too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So that northeast area that you want to clear, to me it seems like it's really not necessary for your operation. I mean, you're going through some considerable permitting and construction processes. Crossing the wetland, going through heritage. You'd have to go through heritage anyway, but that's a lot of area in that northeast section of the site that you're going to clear. What's your intent? Are you going to stockpile material from construction sites there, or why would you need that area? That was my big question. That was always in my mind when I first saw the site plan. I was wondering what is the intent? Why is that so important to your operation?
Initially, the my clients had that in mind, but we reviewed the regulations, the site plan, and the special permit, and they understand that it's not really a viable option to do that. This is an industrial zoned area. It is possible that it could add another building in the future.
Greg, can I jump in on this one?
Sure.
Because Kevin, I'm not sure you even recall you and I had this discussion. I think it's important to show those areas to access that back area now, since we're requesting a variance that depends on access on the bottleneck spot. Because the concern is that if we don't ask for it now and we have the variance to access what we're requesting to access specifically for this project, that at some future time, if we wanted to utilize that area of the property, we don't want to have to come back for another variance. So if you were to write into your decision, that the access would be access to industrial for all industrial purposes, whether proposed now or not, then it's possible that it's not necessary for us, and we'd have to talk to our client to even utilize that area right now or show it. Am I right about that, Kevin?
Yep. Yes.
So
Okay.
basically it's there as a placeholder, Greg.
All right. But there is a possibility that Natural Heritage will take a portion of it or all of it.
Correct.
We don't know the future, but I'm just saying there is that possibility.
Yeah, you're familiar with the permitting process. There's an order of operations that needs to be followed. It's really difficult and expensive, and takes a lot of time to file with everybody at once. If we don't obtain zoning, there's no reason for us to apply to conservation. And you guys cover this in your environmental and performance standards, that all other permits need to be obtained as one of your conditions of approval. That says it right in the special permit requirements. So I think it's a pretty common occurrence that zoning goes first.
I agree. And my last question is access through was it Loretta and
Yeah, Loretta, Lavina, Orman.
What is the most, if it was access through and you went through the planning board, can you show us where you would come in from? I guess it's the VFW Parkway through that residential
Forest Street.
Yeah,
It doesn't attach to VFW. It comes off of Forest.
comes off of Forest.
Yeah.
Correct.
You'd go from VFW to Forest.
No.
You-
More than likely it would be Union Street to Forest. You can get, it really depends on where they're coming from. It depends on what highway access they're coming from, because if they're coming from, let's say, the Weymouth area, they could come up VFW and then Parmenter, and then they can do that. But Parmenter is a very, very tight turn. It's Forest Street is wide, but more than likely they'd end up coming up VFW and making safer turns, I think, onto Union and coming down Forest. They could go up Pleasant, and there's a couple different accesses to access ways to Forest Street.
Right.
And it really comes down to what are you driving? What are you towing? And in the grand scheme of things, how big it is, I guess, because the Parmenter gets treed over, tends to get a little bit treed over, more so than Pleasant. And then Union is Union, so.
Right.
Like Forest, it looks like Pleasant Street to Forest or
Yep.
Street to Forest.
Do you have a map that you could, even if it's kind of sketchy, just so that everybody will understand this process? We've got one of two access points.
So the property is here, frontage here. It also has frontage in this location here. So
Okay.
just say we're leaving instead of coming to the site, it would be Lavina to Warren or Ward out to Loretta, and here is Forest. So you'd either come down Forest and down West Pleasant, or you'd come out to Union and up or down Union to gain access to VFW, which is here.
Yeah. So either way, Union is most likely going to be used to some extent.
Yes. Yep.
They'd be taking some sharp turns, getting through that, getting into, from Forest Street.
Absolutely. And that's why we think Union Street is the better option.
Mr. Chairman, could I throw a little light on that?
Absolutely, Mr. Baker Senior, go for it.
I plowed that area for many years. And those turns in there and all those streets, you cannot get a 10-foot plow to turn that corners in there.
The navigation is a pain.
Can I back up that comment with another comment?
Absolutely.
I drove my Nissan through those roads to see what that was like. The people who live on those roads park on the street like it's their driveway, and the kids play on the roads like it's their yard. It was a tight fit for me in my car to go around some of those corners. It would be an absolute nightmare for any big truck bigger than a F-150 to get through there. I just want to back that up. That's it.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. Mr. Baker Senior, are you good? I think he fell asleep, so now we'll go back to Mr. Tanzi.
I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
You're good at this point? All right.
Yes.
Thank you. And now in my line, Mr. Galley, you are up next.
Oh, thank you. What I was wondering, I don't know if it's a question for the applicant, but what I was wondering on the part of the property that with the Warren Street abutters, would it be a possibility to put up some sort of fencing? Because I have this image of kids playing in the woods and going through the woods, and it would be like an unimpeded access. And I just think a fence would definitely be it would be something that would discourage entry. And that's a stretch of residences, and I don't know how many kids live there, but I think it would be a risk for them to try to enter the property at any time. And if it's not going to be very busy, it'd be a lot easier to go in there and not really be caught, even though, maybe they won't get hurt, but it would be a possibility. So I don't know really where to throw that question, but it's a comment. It's something that I feel would be valuable.
I can address that.
Please.
We are proposing a privacy fence, an 8-foot tall wooden privacy fence. As part of natural heritage, they will require that a turtle fence be put in around all the improved site areas. turtles cannot get in. And essentially, that's a 4-foot black vinyl chain link fence that's dug actually into the ground a few inches so turtles can't dig under it. But this entire developed site will be wrapped by a chain link fence on the interior, and on the exterior we will connect to the privacy fence and likely have the turtle fence as well.
Okay, good. Thank you. I only caught the part earlier you talked about the trees and everything, so I didn't pick up on that privacy fence at that position. Thank you.
Sure. No problem.
That's my concern at this time. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it. Keep going. I've got Mr. Baker Jr. Talk to me, sir. Do you have any questions for the applicant?
I do, Mr. Chairman, and thank you. Mr. Grady, you had mentioned that there's a stream running through the property.
We definitely have a drainage ditch here. I don't have rivers.
Well, you would use the word stream. That's why I'm asking.
Okay. I don't recall using the word, so I may have misspoken. I will check my wetlands delineation.
That was me. That was me. I used the
I
word.
beg your pardon.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, Kevin, that I saw a stream on the GIS map when I was looking. And I don't know if it's culverted or how it works, but it just shows on the map. That's all.
All right, thank you for the clarification, Counselor. Mr. Grady, with that in mind.
There is an intermittent stream in this location.
I'm sorry?
There's an intermittent stream in this location here. There's a culvert.
I can't see your cursor, so
Okay. There's a little
On the area basically where the line between the two zoning districts are located, to the left of the building.
there's a finger-like projection of the wetland there.
Mhm.
Head wall with a pipe. I think it's a 12-inch pipe that it says an intermittent stream on the wetland scientist sketch. When I looked at that culvert, it was dry. There was no water running.
okay. But in any event, is my understanding correct that your plan calls for neither the interruption or the diversion of that intermittent stream, should there be water in it at any point?
Correct. We're working around it.
Okay, good, thank you. Counselor, I believe you said that there would be no processing on this property, is that correct?
That's what I'm told by Kevin. Am I right about that, Kevin?
Correct.
Okay. So I guess, and I'm not sure that Mr. Tanzi's underlying question was answered. If you have no plan, and I understand your explanation, Counselor, about doing it now rather than doing it later, just in case. But it seems to be an awful lot of trouble and expense to clear that upland area, to have the road going from the northeast upland area, and have the road going from between the two upland areas, for something you have no present, and clear it, and for something you have no present plans to ever utilize. You know, I kind of analogize it to, I have a piece of land and I'm going to build a house.
Yeah.
Right now and for my foreseeable future and my plans for life. A 4-bedroom house with 2 bathrooms is going to be just fine. But I decide to build a house with 10 bedrooms and 8 bathrooms just in case.
So it's a head scratcher for me. I think that the best way to handle this is for Kevin to file a revised plan that denotes an area of, say, a potential future phase 2 for industrial uses, not to be constructed at this time, or something along those lines, because it makes no sense to construct a road to nowhere.
Other aspect that we were considering when we did this. Again, natural heritage allows you typically to develop 1/3 of the property, and the other 2/3 is to remain in natural condition in perpetuity. We had to concept that out, and that's ultimately what you're looking at there. we didn't want to just cut it off and say, okay, we're going to stop here. We need to project what the limiting development regulatory requirement is. Two of the ones we hit are natural heritage, which is the 1/3, 2/3, and then the other one we analyzed was the wetland fill, where the local conservation commission may allow up to 5,000 square feet. So my job for my clients was to analyze that, and that's really what's in front of you here. When we do file the notice of intent and we really need to get this before natural heritage, including that back area, or they're going to say that we were phasing this application. So we really need to show what the full future development could be.
Well, I thank you both for being forthright with me, and I'm going to be forthright with you. My concern is not so much the layout, but what is going to go in there or what might go in there for use in the future. And right now we have no idea what that might be.
Well, I guess,
and as importantly, the neighbors have no idea what that might be either.
But that's also subject to a future permit, right? So under your bylaw, should the use be changed, it would provoke the need or requirement for a site plan review. If the use is changed in a manner that requires a special permit, then it would provoke the need for that. It definitely would be site plan review in the minimal amount. So there would be another filing. What I'm at least trying to avoid is any modification to this zoning variance that we're requesting. If some condition can be put into the decision that kind of acknowledges this space, you know, that's fine. We have that to go with in the future, but it's not like we're withholding any use from you.
No,
we
I'm not
simply don't have a
suggesting you are,
concept.
quite the contrary.
Yeah.
I just wish there could be some, and I don't even know if specificity is the right word, but I think you know where I'm going. Thank you both. You would mention, Mr. Grady, that it's just going to be essentially new material that's stored there to be taken from the site to job sites?
correct.
Okay. Now, if I remember correctly, I believe you said your clients were engaged in the piping excavation business?
Yep.
Okay.
Sewer,
So,
water,
I'm
site-
sorry?
sewer, water mains,
Yeah.
site paving, not paving, but groundwork, basically.
So I'm assuming in that kind of work, not only is material brought out to the site, but there is waste or excavation materials generated by the site work. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. What's happening with that stuff?
It gets brought. We have multiple sites that we have to typically bring it to.
Is this site one of those sites?
No, the cities usually actually have a designated area, staging yards, and then it usually actually never makes its way back to our home site.
So you have no plans on bringing any job site material back to this site?
We're not planning.
Not a significant amount.
Okay. What would a significant amount?
It's not a stockpile, stockpiling site. There's no intention to stockpile waste materials at this property. Those storage bins are for aggregates, mulch, loam, and it's not a mulch processing location where you'd have hundreds of yards of mulch. It's more of a convenience for smaller projects. Typically, they have materials delivered to the site.
Okay. All right, thank you. Question on the sewer connection. What happens to your not plans as in written plans, but plans in terms of anticipation if you don't get approved for a sewer connection?
We have done test holes throughout the property, and I do believe the site does have the capacity for on-site sewage if for some reason we can't get municipal sewer connections.
Okay. And what, if any, impact, if you've anticipated it, would that on-site sewage collection have on the wetlands?
Sure, we would have to meet all Title V requirements, including setbacks to the wetland. So there's a significant amount of acreage here. The use is not a high generator of effluent. Warehouses typically only have a few people at them. In this instance, they'll generate less effluent than a single family house.
Right, but certainly more than is there now.
Correct. But it will have to meet Title V requirements.
Okay. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Not a problem, Mr. Baker Jr. Mr. Baker Senior, he moved on my screen here. He is still here. Mr. Baker Senior, this is your show now.
You want me to? Can you unshare me again, Rob?
But let me see
All right.
if I can get him to unmute first because he may need it up there.
Sure.
Mr. Baker Senior, you need to unmute, dude. All right. Can you hear us? Yes.
Yeah.
All
I'm
right.
here.
Do you need Kevin to have that plan still up there or
Just for 1 second, if
perfect?
you don't mind. On between the houses and your proposed site for the development, that's industrial. Is that does that require the 50-foot setback or a 30-foot?
It's 30
Okay.
foot undisturbed buffer.
You answered the question on the turtle crossings, but is there, on the house that you're gonna raise out front, is there water and sewer to that house now?
That's been disconnected.
Has been disconnected though.
Yes, there is water and sewer.
So you could actually tap off of those lines?
Yeah, I guess technically we have 330 gallons per day of capacity with the municipal sewer system available for this site.
Okay. And did you get any of these correspondence from any of the boards, the department heads,
Uh,
the highway, sewer?
Yeah, they were posted on the website. I reviewed fire, police, engineering, DPW.
Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, but those are things that you really need to take into consideration when you're dealing with the planning board, correct?
correct.
All right.
That's all planning board stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
There
What else
really
you got?
wasn't much in there either, except to say basically a reiteration, you have to follow our regulations, which of course yep.
When you do the land clearing, are you gonna bring in a tree company to clear the trees and grind up the brush and the logs and the stumps?
Yes, be a professional tree company.
Okay, and where will that stuff go? Off-site?
Yes, offsite. It won't be buried or stored on site. I don't know. You guys have a wood stove planned or anything? So, nothing of volume.
The only concern I have is how many trucks do you figure are gonna be in and out of there a day while they're doing this work? The wood clearing. I know most of those trucks are over a 100 yard. Most wood chip trucks.
Yeah, 8 trucks a day out to Maine. Yeah, I guess we're estimating 8 trucks at this point. I'm not sure. You know, the tree company will look at what the trees are and what's loggable, right? And then what's
Right.
What's going to be ground and taken off as wood chips, mulch material, et cetera. I mean, a good sized company won't take too long to get through this.
No, they buzz right through a lot like that. The other question is what kind of material you're gonna be bringing in for fill? It's gonna be bony gravel,
Yeah, clean site material, gravel, compactable, material that can drain.
and how many trucks a day do you figure that's gonna be?
That is a good question. I guess that depends upon how much material is available to get in here. In a perfect world, they would bring in a lot of trucks over a short period of time to get it over with. But I can't really answer that at this time. I might be able to get back to you on that if I think about it for a minute.
Right. And the one last question is, are you gonna have to remove the loomy material, the leaves and all that, like compost that's on the property now to get to a good base?
Yes, one thing I did want to mention is that I neglected to is that processing of material is not going to be part of the use on this site. However, during construction, screening of materials for site work will likely take place. Just like we discussed that these they don't plan on screening and processing on this property. They typically do it on the sites they're working on.
Right.
It costs money to transport that. So during construction, there may be some screening and processing of site material, and it is necessary to construct the site properly.
And then what will happen with that material?
It'll be reused on site, and if there is any additional material, it will be taken off site.
So it won't be stockpiled in that back lot?
No, it probably has some value and can offset some of their construction costs. And because I you know, going to gravel the contractor yard, you're not going to need all the loam, so that may have to be taken off site.
I just care, concerned about the number of trucks coming in and out while construction is going on.
Understood.
And what will be the hours of the construction operation? The same as your business hours?
Yes, typical business hours. We're aware that there's residential neighborhoods, so typical business hours.
Because I know those big processors for the wood are awful noisy, and they vibrate a lot.
That would be a short duration as part of the site work. It's not necessarily part of the proposed use.
I understand that, but I'm just,
Yeah, I mean, we can.
even, during the construction period, how long do you think it's gonna take you to do the whole job? 6 months, a year, 2 years?
So I do believe this first, so if we talk about phasing it, like we've discussed, because I sort of see the construction happening in 2 phases, whether or not the permitting happens like that. This first half is probably a year. So it's not going to take long to clear it and get it to subgrade, but bring in the material and get it to elevation and install the drainage components. Again, I don't know. What we don't have a handle on is how much material is nearby and available, because that will relate to cost.
Right. So you're gonna do the front face first and then
Yes,
concentrate on the back?
got to work your way into the property.
Are you going to have that back lot pre-cut and cleared from the,
I see this more as 2 phases of construction, but 1 phase of permitting.
I understand that. Are you just gonna work on the front section?
Correct. Right out of the gate, they're looking for a home for their administrator and some of their equipment. So I think this first area near the building, that first bulb, is number 1, and that should probably go pretty quickly. And then they start pushing to that area where there's the storage.
Where the storage bins are, and then go to the back?
Correct.
That's all I have at this time, Rob.
Thank you, Mr. Baker Senior. And you technically kind of answered the question I have, or I had, the big one. It was kind of just I don't want to use the word phasing, but you know, there's no way you're going to be able to take care of all of this in one shot. And this is no. So,
Agreed.
all right. Kevin, can you unshare, or do I need to do my thing again?
You need to kick me out again, Rob.
All right, hold on. Here we go. Host only. Goodbye. And back to that. And you are the weakest link. All right. All right. Steve, you want to read into, do you have all the correspondence?
Yeah.
Do you want to read that all into record? I know we had let me see. There was departmental. There was something from the planning director. I know that there was a couple of letters from abutters. You correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was roughly it. And you got, and again, I'm just making sure that you had it all.
Yeah, because Deb sent out town planner memo, highway and sewer, fire, I think the fire chief and all them. So all of those you're talking?
Yeah, just making sure that you had them all. I mean, they went to the departments went to the trouble of actually writing letters on this.
Yep.
So it would be nice to hear from them.
All right, good. You want to read one at a time?
Yeah, one at a time. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. I'm just gonna go left or right. What's comes up on the email.
Gotcha.
The first one I've got is a memorandum from the let me see here. Oh, wait, is that, forgive me. Town of Rockland memorandum, just trying to follow the date, from Allison Quinn, town planner. Thank you. I looked at it earlier and I was just trying to make sure I'm reading it, presenting it right. So yeah, from Allison Quinn, town planner, memorandum, ZBA filed 2025-003 regarding property address 119 and 1059 rear Union Street. Okay. Applicant N&M Re Holding LLC. This application is to allow an access driveway across a residentially zoned parcel, 1119 Union Street, to an industrial zoned parcel, 1059 rear Union Street, for permissible use allowed by a special permit, manufacturing, assemblage, processing, and storage operations that are not offensive by reason of the emission of odor, fumes, dust, smoke, noise, and/or vibration, or that have a negative impact on the environment or conditions within the town or adjacent towns. A specific proposed use for 1059 rear Union Street is quote unquote contractor yard / warehouse and storage of materials, unquote. This application is consistent with the previous application before the ZBA for a parcel known as 11 Pleasant Street. The ZBA voted to grant that application, allowing the industrial zoned rear parcel to be accessed through the residentially zoned parcel. See ZBA decision dated 9/14/2004. Additionally, the applicant will need to appear before the planning board for site plan review. This parcel is also subject to the Natural Heritage designation, requiring that the Massachusetts Division of Fisheries and Wildlife review this project. I reached out to Amy Hainig, Senior Endangered Species Review Biologist of the National Heritage and Endangered Species Program on 11/15/2024, to inform her that we anticipated an application that would be coming forward for 1119 and 1059 rear Union Street. Mrs. Hainig responded stating, as indicated on the map you provided, this property is delineated as priority habitat and as estimated habitat for state listed species. Any project proposed within the PH/EH requires a regulatory filing with the division pursuant to the Massachusetts Endangered Species Act, and if applicable, also the rare species provision of the Wetlands Protection Act. The map you provided is the current valid map related to the MESA/WPA regulatory review process. At this time, the division does not have a MESA or WPA application for any project proposed at the site you reference. The applicant is required to initiate the appropriate MESA WPA review process with our office and must receive a final determination before any project can be implemented. The applicant, through his representative Kevin Grady, has maintained contact with myself and the land use coordinator, and is aware of the obligations under Massachusetts Division of Fisheries and Wildlife. Mr. Grady plans on submitting this proposed project to the state once the ZBA based on the outcome of the ZBA hearing. The requirements of state review will be part of the planning board site review process as regulated through that board, along with any requirements attribute the proposed site plan. Given that there is existing precedent for granting the application for a use variance and a use permitted by special permit, and any other state or local regulations will be reviewed through the planning board site plan review process, it is therefore recommended that the ZBA grant the request for a use variance. Okay, there's and then it attached with the memo from the September 14th, 2004 like the decision. Do you need that read?
No, that's no, don't worry.
Okay,
about
good, because they reference it, so it doesn't need to be read. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Actually, let me just double check myself. I believe that's all it is. It's just again, yep, it's just a decision added to it. The next thing is an email. Let's see here. I just want to see what was it titled? Highway and Sewer email. Okay. Let's see here. Just trying to follow it. Subject 119 and 1059 Rear Union Street ZBA hearing. Okay. From David P. Taylor to Deb Shuttlesworth. Okay. Deb, Concept 1, Highway. The road at Lavina will need to be extended 10 feet beyond the property line to town road specifications. The extension of 10 feet is due to any quality differentiation crossing into lot and making its way back to road stability. The gate would need to be accessible to highway, police, and fire. Designated signage will need to meet MUTCD compliance on emergency vehicle access only. The main entrance will need MUTC compliance signage on truck entrance ahead. There should be an amendment if there's a truck issue / incident that the signage would be a lit, blinking, or solar. The entrance on Union Street should be 6 VA, forgive me, I don't know what that means, so how to say it. 6 VA, 6-inch granite radius installed with sidewalks extended to lot lines. Sewer. There's a 20-foot sewer easement that runs through the property. This easement will need to be fully accessible the entire format. There will be a survey done to mark. There should be a survey done to mark the easement out as well as any structures. If there are sewer manhole structures running into parking and/or roadway, they will need to be adjusted, and hardtop should be around or raised above finished grade to avoid I&I. Keys will need to be available to sewer department for gates. Concept 2, highway. The road and extension will need to meet town of Rockland road specifications. Will need to have walks extended into one side of development. Street signage will need to meet MUTCD compliance as well as any striping associated with. Sewer. As of now, there is a full moratorium on any sewer for development. It would need to be brought into board, but odds are no. Okay. The next one is titled RPD Chief Email. Okay. From Nicholas Zioli to Deb Shuttlesworth. Hi, Deb.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
Birthday Farm, that 6VD6 means 6-inch vertical from the road grade up to the top of the curbing and 6 inches wide.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that explanation of something that only the planning board would really need to know at this point. Thank you. Mr. Galley.
All right. To continue. Okay. Hi, Deb. I want to thank you for dropping me off plans for 1119 and 1059 Rear Union Street. Everything looks good on our end. I guess the only comments we would like to make would be the following. If there are to be lock gates at both entrances, Union Street and Lavina Ave, will they be able to provide keys to our department in case we need emergency access after hours? If large trucks are entering and exiting the site, will they be posting any kind of signage indicating that, quote unquote, trucks entering, etc.? Thank you. Nicholas P. Zioli, Chief of Police, Rockland Police Department. Sorry. The next one's a Deputy Fire Chief. Okay, Chairman, to March 4th, 2024, Chairman Rob Rosa, Zoning and Board of Appeals. Chairman Rosa, the Rockland Fire Department requires that this project comply with 527 CMR 1.00 Massachusetts Comprehensive Fire Safety Code, Chapter 13 and 18 inclusive, special attention to the following sections. 13.7, detection, alarm, and communication systems. The Rockland Fire Department will require monitoring of the alarm system by central station or master box. Additionally, an EAS key box will be provided for the building and or in any gates constructed on the property. 18.1.3.1, fire apparatus access. Plans for fire apparatus access roads shall be submitted to the AAH for review and approval prior to construction. 18.1.3.2, fire hydrant systems. Plans and specifications for fire hydrant systems shall be submitted to the AHJ for review. Rockland Fire Department will require additional hydrants throughout this property. 18.2.3, fire apparatus access roads. 18.2.3.1.4, when fire apparatus access roads cannot be installed due to location on property, topography, waterways, non-negotiable grades, or any other similar conditions, the AHJ shall be authorized to require additional fire protection features. The Rockland Fire Department will require a dry hydrant system to extend the entire length of the causeway. 18.2.3.3, multiple access roads. More than one fire apparatus access road shall be provided when it is determined by the AHJ that access by a single road could be impaired by vehicle congestion, condition of terrain, climate conditions, or other factors that could limit access. The Rockland Fire Department will require a second access road for the current plan submission. The Rockland Fire reserves the right to require the second access road if plans are altered or revised. 18.2.3.5.1.1, dimensions. The Rockland Fire Department approves the dimensions provided and demonstrated by a swept path analysis, included the bridge box culverts. 18.2.3.5.2, surfaces. Fire apparatus access roads shall be designed and maintained to support the imposed loads of fire apparatus, shall be provided with all-weather driving surface. 18.2.3.5.3, turning radius. The applicant has supplied a swept path analysis that is approved by Rockland Fire. 18.2.3.5.5, bridges. When a bridge is required to be used as part of a fire apparatus access road, it shall be constructed and maintained in accordance with nationally recognized standards. 18.2.3.5.6.1, grade. The gradient for a fire apparatus access road shall not exceed the design limitations of the fire apparatus of the fire department and shall be subject to approval by the AHJ. Rockland Fire Department reserves the right to review and revise any alteration submissions to this proposed plan. Please contact with any questions. Thomas L. Heaney, Deputy Fire Chief.
Steve, just a quick, that was all the interdepartmental stuff. Everything else is just, about our comments and stuff like that.
Let me see here.
Those are gonna get read into.
Something from Allison Quinn. Let me
Isn't that
see.
identical to what we already talked about?
Yeah, I think it's a short email. Let me see. It yeah, it's an email to Deb from Allison Quinn. And I mean, it's short. I mean, it's 2 paragraphs. It's Amy to Allison Quinn. Maybe that's a.
We've already covered
Oh,
that. That's natural heritage.
Okay. Yeah. So that must be okay. All right. Yep. So right. Thank you. That was Amy Haney. Okay, that was the internal comment for that. Okay.
So everything else is a butter comments.
Yeah. The next one is Kevin Grady, and
Kevin Grady understands that he has to
Yeah.
go to natural heritage. Kevin, do you mind if we skip reading your letter?
yeah, the next one isn't about a comment.
All right. The only reason why I wanted it, okay, thank you, Kevin. The only reason why I wanted to differentiate is because I want to thank all the departments and the department heads for doing a thorough analysis of the plans. All of these comments are going to end up having to go to planning board. But it's just they take the time, even for us, for zoning, they take the time to analyze these things. I just want to make sure that they know that the board thanks them. So that's really all I wanted to say. Steve, if you can read the remaining
Yep.
correspondence, that would be great.
Okay, great. So you don't need the correspondence from National Heritage, right?
No, we've already talked about it. So it's just,
And Kevin Grady. So what you just need is the abutter comment.
yep, just the abutters comments and that
All right.
that should cover it.
Okay, great. So yep, it's all right, good. So this is from Kristen Anderson, 30 Warren Ave. Email. There's a letter. Please find my letter sharing my opinion on the application. Okay, so it's Kristen Anderson, formerly Rolf, 30 Warren Ave, Rockland, Mass, March 2nd, 2025. Rockland Zoning Board of Appeals. I am writing in regard to the legal notice I received as a party of interest in the N&M Re Holdings LLC March 4th, 2025 ZBA hearing regarding 1119 and 1059 Rear Union Street. I would like to voice my strong opposition to granting a zoning variance to access through a residential zoning district to construct a warehouse and contractor yard. This is definitely not in character of the existing neighborhoods. It is stated that it is not offensive and will not have a negative impact on the environment or conditions, create noise, etc., but I wholeheartedly disagree. As an abutter whose quality of life and likely home value will be negatively impacted by the proposal, I am concerned about the noise / vibration / dust / odor and fumes, etc. level, especially early in the morning, and unattractiveness of the site and trailers so closely bordering residential areas and homes. Again, this is very much not in the character of the neighborhood / residential area. Having industrial noise, etc., so early in the morning and throughout the day will negatively affect our quality of life on a daily basis and will take a toll on the quality and aesthetics of our residential area neighborhood. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Kristen Anderson, Rolf. I believe that's it for that. There was another letter. Was that that's the other agenda. Never mind.
Thought we had something from Mary. I thought I saw there was a letter from Mary Parsons in there.
There was a comment about Mary Parsons.
I thought I saw something from her.
There was a comment from Allison Quinn, where in the email where she mentioned the National Heritage conversation. I'll just read it. It's a quick paragraph.
It's whatever works. I just
Yeah,
want to make sure
it mentions Mary Parsons, so I think that's what you're talking about.
Okay.
Okay, so Allison Quinn to Deb Shuttlesworth, Thursday, February 27, 2025. Good morning, Deb. Please add this to the file as well. I've already reached out to the state regarding the protective status of the parcel. I have made the applicant aware, and his engineer, Kevin Grady, has stated that once the ZBA process is completed, they will then file applications with the appropriate state agency agencies that would determine which parts of the parcel are subject to any restrictions. I was informed that Mary Parsons has also reached out to DCR. I want the public to understand that we had reached out back in November to inform DCR of this potential project and the need for state review, specifically any heritage conditions related to the protected species on site. Does that cover what you were looking for?
I believe so. I think that,
Okay.
I remember she was mentioned. I couldn't remember if she wrote the email. I just wanted to make sure that got in there too.
Yep.
All right. So that's that. We've dealt with everything. Here's my conundrum right now. It's 9:10, and we still got to deal with the other issue when it comes to Shingle Mill. If we close tonight, we need to hear from the abutters. Obviously, we need to hear from the abutters. There's a substantial amount of abutters here. I believe everybody wants to have a shot here. I have a feeling that this could potentially go until 10 o'clock. So that being the case, we still need to deal with something else after this. What are we thinking, people? Do we want to try and deal with this tonight? I don't think we have enough time.
I don't think we do either, Mr. Chairman. I don't know, maybe if we finish up with the Union Street, do we just open the hearing for Shingle Mill and continue it?
I think my recommendation is, my thought is we have to discuss Shingle Mill. It's a different application we can't talk about. But we can talk about this one. Mr. Baker Jr., you being a legal eagle up here.
I don't know that you have the right species of bird, but I'll go with
No,
you.
I dig it. I just don't know if we can do this. I don't know if because I don't know if we can actually say that we're going to continue it.
Mr. Chair, we're not gonna put the board in a position where it's gonna be pushed to the limit on this.
Okay.
If you could start the abutter process, we get a sense of what the particular issues are. But we have no interest in putting you in a similar position that you were in a few months back.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I appreciate Mr. DeLisi's comment. I don't foresee any likelihood that we would be able to conclude deliberations on this matter tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think we should see how we go with the abutter comments.
Mm-hmm.
And from that point, as you've suggested, we do have another matter that has to be addressed tonight.
It has to be addressed tonight.
And see where that leaves us. But again,
Um,
I don't think it's possible.
In
All right,
in an ideal world, if we can get through better comments and continue, that's fine. And what I mean by continue is vote to close and continue. But let's see where it goes, and if it looks like it's dragging on, then we'll just have to make a choice.
all right, I'm going to tell you right now that
Mr. Chairman?
9:45. Hold on, 9:45 is the limit. Anything
That's what
else,
I'm just gonna
else after that, we're going to get into a problem. So,
Mhm.
Mr. Baker Jr. Senior, you got stuff to say. So
I was gonna suggest the 9:45 cut off.
perfect. All right, so we're going to cut it off at 9:45. Let's see what happens. So, without further ado, I'm going to open this up to the general public. Is there anybody that wants to speak in favor of this application? And I'm going to wait until 9:45 till somebody says they want it. Okay. Get it. Is there anybody that wants to speak opposed to this application? We're gonna get a hand raised, or we're gonna have somebody say something, or there's nobody that wants to oppose this, are you?
Oh,
Really?
there's one.
Where are we? Who's raising their hand? Who wants to
It's
say something?
Valencia. I do want to oppose this. I do feel like it's gonna get
Okay,
in the way.
Valencia, I need your name and address for the record.
Okay, my name is Valencia St. Charles and my address is 959 Union Street.
Okay.
My property abuts Union and Forest right there in the corner. I do think this is going to be an issue as far as noise is concerned, as far as it's concerned with my daughter who is in the neighborhood. And because we abut both areas, we are getting noise from each side. Playing out in the street is something that all the kids do. There's a lot of people that walk in the street, and I think that it's just going to kill the feel of the neighborhood. That's what I have to say.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Is there anybody else that wants to speak opposed?
Yes, I'm Mauricio Ramos of 942 Union Street and
Okay,
64
Mr.
Forest Street.
All right,
I speak opposed to it because it will take the peace of the neighborhood. Like Valencia just mentioned, kids do play on Union Street, Forest, and in the Little Back neighborhood, Letitia Road, #1. So my biggest concern here is safety for children, adults, and traffic. During the last meeting, when I opposed it, was the evening that my wife had got in a car accident, the corner of the FW Drive and Union Street. The stop sign is greatly ignored, and I can imagine an accident of the intersection, which may involve a tractor trailer and a smaller car. And one thing I'd like to point out is throughout the meeting,
Mauricio.
part-time understanding of large machinery, press bulldozer, and 5 trucks that only has 7 employees coming and going, right? It doesn't add up. They have more equipment than they have employees. So there's a disconnect. And then another fact that came out during this application is about them planning to clear a bigger area than necessary, as it was pointed out by one of the members of the board. I think there's plans for expansion, or they've already expansion planned and lined up that they are not disclosing to us. And we may get a lot more traffic than they're promising we're gonna get. And then my other concern is the environmental effect, even if they get through all the hoops. But even if they also do the mitigation of controlling rainwater, the increased risk of flood, because there's a lot of wet zones off their property. The water has to go somewhere. Is my backyard gonna get flooded from underground water that will have no way to go? Do you understand? Like, there's a lot of implications, and it's just not environmental to the animals, but also to the neighborhood, because you're not far above the water level. There are brooks everywhere on Forest Street. There's brooks on the back of Union Street. There's a lot of little brooks running and a lot of dry or seasonal waterways in the area that could change with this construction.
Okay, anything else, sir?
No, that's it for now.
All right, appreciate your comments, sir. Who's next?
Hey, good evening, gentlemen. How you guys doing?
Not too bad. Name and address for the record, sir.
956 Union Street. I'm facing Union and also Forest.
What's your name?
My name is Nickinson, last name Comte.
Okay.
I moved here from 4 years ago. I moved here from Brockton. I bought the property. The reason I bought the property is basically where it's placed. You know what I mean? It's a dead end. I have 2 kids, and that's actually, I have a 15-year-old that love to ride his bikes in the street because it's a dead end, kind of a dead end. So if all these let me not say what I was gonna say. All these changes you guys try to do is gonna really defeat the purpose why I came up here, to be honest. You understand? So I don't know what's the change now, or why you guys do try to do all this right now, to be honest. I mean, it's already a problem already with people speeding in the street, especially on Union. And I don't know if you guys checked, and there's a few accidents, like people like at night coming from the bars, you know, hitting cars. I can't even take a chance to park my car outside because afraid that somebody's gonna, you know, either leave players or where they come wherever, because they think this is a toll street, which is a dead end, and hitting cars that's parked in the street, you know. So again, I think it's gonna be a safety issue for my kids and all the other kids that also live in the street on Union and Forest, you know. So to me, and I'm sure my other neighbors probably feel the same way, it's not gonna be a good idea for us, to be honest, you know.
I wanna, hi, I'm Valencia, 959 Union. I also want to say that a majority of the kids that are in the neighborhood, they are under 5 years old. Majority of the kids. And they are kids, again, that we see outside, that go for walks with their parents, that are learning how to ride bikes, that are going to their friend's house. The school bus stop is pretty much at the end of my driveway in the corner of Union and Forest. Alone, the trash and the recycle bins that come in the morning, those are loud enough when they come in once a week. Those are loud enough. So I can't even imagine listening to these trucks passing by 40 times a day, 7 days a week, well, minus the Sunday and your holidays. But I think it's really going to be impactful in the neighborhood. It's just going to take away that neighborhood feel.
All right, Valencia, I appreciate the second comment. Is there anybody else that wants to talk?
Yes.
Hey, Mary. Oh, no, Mary was raising her hand. I
Yep,
saw
Mary
Mary.
Parsons, 754 Union Street. Can you show me where that intermittent stream is? Is it on the property or is it outside of the property?
Kevin, can you help with that? Sounds like it's a mass mapper situation. It's not actually on the site plan.
It's yeah. Let's see. It's my the intermittent stream is, look, you guys can see this, right? Intermittent stream is here.
Okay, how far, where is the actual cul-de-sac? At the 1119 house, right there?
Yeah.
Okay, my question is the fact that this is an excavating company, and with it comes dust fumes, diesel fumes, that people will have to deal with. So what are they actually warehousing?
So they have a mechanic in the building, garage bays, so there'll be equipment, trucks, pickups, and rake, shovels, everything that they need to run their business, particularly things that need to be stored indoors.
So they're just storing brake pads, filters, things like that.
Correct.
So basically they're doing excavating on this property. That's why they're clearing everything, because these people will have to deal with the fumes. They'll have to deal with diesel fumes in the summer, because Forest Street people asked me to mention it because they're dealing with it with another company that's down on VFW. And they get the fumes, they get the diesel, they get the noise, and you know how construction vehicles, they back up and they have that sound, like bells going off. They're going to have to deal with all of this, and it will bring down their property values. They'll also be able to file for abatements on that. But my other question is, I didn't go to DCR. I went straight to Natural Heritage. I deal with them a lot. And this is rare species habitat. And they're waiting for your application.
Yes, I've had communications with them.
So how is they going to keep the dust down? Because we do get 60-mile-an-hour winds every so often. And a couple of days ago, we had some really high winds here. So that means it's going to be dust. You have open bins. And if I'm not mistaken, they don't have to give you a variance.
Yeah, so they do have a water truck. They can tarp the bins if they have material that would be creating dust, something that's not an aggregate.
Well, that's the bins, but they're clear cutting the entire area. So that's going to be dust that the vehicles are going back and forth on. So, and yeah, that creates swirling dust when it's high winds. And the winds are really high here.
Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, but that would be covered under a construction, basically a construction plan that would have to go through planning board at this point.
Correct.
Okay, so it's not something that they know they have to take care of it. I mean, I think it should be obvious to them that they're gonna have to take care of situations like that during the construction of whatever they're doing out there. It's as long as they know they have to deal with it, it's not something that we can really, regulate at this point. Other than the fact that it could be a condition of some sort, but it's not something that we can really deal with right now.
Well, the other issue is all the setbacks. That's not 10 feet's not much at all. Neither is 30 feet.
It does comply with the bylaw.
It might comply with the bylaw, but that's a minimum. That's all I have for now.
I appreciate that, Mary. Thank you very much. Kev, can you take the mass mapper down? Oh no, actually, I got to do that.
Yeah.
Hold on. Right, advanced, done. See ya.
Thank you.
All right, not a problem. So we got that.
Mr.
Well, what was that? John Ward, do I see you?
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Thank
Name
you,
and
Mr.
address.
President. My name is John Ward. I live at 22 Nevins Circle.
Perfect.
And from what I understand in viewing this, the owner of the property is applying for a hardship variance. And the issue is, I believe, you can't go through a residential property in order to access a commercial property. The property owner must have known that this condition existed when they bought the land. So how can that be a hardship? It's just a thought.
Attorney DeLisi, are you available to address this?
So the question is, how could it be a hardship if it was known to the applicant when they bought the property that they would have to cross residential land to get to commercial land? Is that the question?
That covers it.
Yeah. I'm not sure knowledge or imputed knowledge at the time of purchase of property really matters for purposes of analyzing variances. There are multiple hardships that would be present should the variance not be issued, or should the literal interpretation of the bylaw be applied. For instance, in addition to not being able to access more than 90% of the lot for purposes of utilizing it for its zoned uses, should the alternative option be required because the board would not grant a variance, a hardship would be that circumstance would require the construction of the end of Lavina Avenue into the property, which itself is a hardship. So there are more than one hardships, and that's probably the best way I can answer that question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Ward, does that cover you? Does that cover that? Or do you have more that you want to
Oh,
talk
that's
about?
it for now. Thank you.
I appreciate John. Who else we got? Anybody else want to speak?
Mauricio of 942 Union Street again,
Okay.
Mauricio Ramos. I like to also, another thing, like Mary Parsons mentioned, when the whole neighborhood files for abatement, right, this also may cause a little bit of hardship for the town with all these houses losing value for the revenue of the town, right? Is that taken into consideration at all? Because I clearly, if my house were 500,000 today on a quiet street, dead end, I don't see anybody, I see that I would probably lose 10, 20% value from tractor trailers going by my house 50 times a day, right? So file for abatement and encourage all my neighbors to do the same. And then we can all get together and also hire a lawyer to take it to court to get an abatement. And, it's going to cause hardship to the town as we are already short financially, right? We're struggling to have money to do everything we need to do. So this is also going to affect the bottom line of the finances of the town. When you have 50 houses or so, they can file for abatement, for depreciation.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Anything else you want to add to that or no?
No, I just, I don't know if you consider that in your decision making, that many will be affected to benefit one.
Okay. Again, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
We're doing reasonable for time here. Is there anybody else that wants to speak in favor or opposed?
I want to speak in opposition of this.
Okay, name and address for the record.
Andrew Delpreet, 1126 Union Street.
Okay.
Currently, obviously, right across the street from the proposed building. I see there's a lot of conversation that has gone on tonight, obviously, with concerns of this. There was no concerns about, you're going to have a lot of construction trucks coming in and out throughout the construction process, and then you're going to have the company, whether a trip generator says 55 trucks, say, with 15 employees or not, you're still going to have 18-wheelers at some point, 10-wheelers, say, if they ever expanded, say, to get a triaxle or something, using Jake brakes up and down the road. That wasn't a conversation had. I know that was spoken of briefly in the last meeting about this. There hadn't been really much about that. And then a question I have with the dust mitigation is they mentioned a water truck. Where are they going to get the water from? We're always in a, we can't use our water for exterior use all the time. So where are they going to fill a 500-gallon plus water tank, a water truck, and then keep the dust down throughout the summer months? Because I don't think this whole project is going to be hardtop, unless someone can clarify if it is going to be blacktop. I mean, that's a couple of concerns there, but I think something that should be done is looked into, as a town would have to do this, is to look into the speed limit of 35 miles an hour with heavy equipment, some trucks weighing in excess of 100,000 pounds running down that road. And then as others have spoken of, as kids do play in the streets, I personally drive up and down the road doing 20 to 25 because I don't want to have that, God forbid, a kid come running out chasing a ball and you're going 35 miles an hour. You're not going to stop in time to not hit a child. I think that's another separate issue, but it's beneficial to have a conversation about it now that we're talking about 100,000-pound trucks and construction and everything else going on.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Delpreet?
No, that'd be it for the time being.
All right. I thank you for your comments. Kevin, is there anything in there you wanna address at this point?
No, well, for the as far as where we get the water from, we could drive a well. It's a pretty big site. I'm sure we get a well on there if needed, if there's not available town water. And it's a flat road. There's a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit. I'm sure at this point in the, you got a speed limit for a reason. They'll be doing speed limit or less in these trucks to gain access to the site. The local police can police that if there's issues. Other than that, I don't really have any other comments.
All right, Kevin, thank you. Anybody else want to speak in favor or opposed? We're still doing okay for time, but we're never going to be able to make the decision tonight.
Can I just hit back with one more comment about the
Mr. Delpre, yes, please.
Just with driving a well due to the proximity of the airbase, I know all of us know that there is many wells on the airbase tested for PFAS, PCBs, other chemicals like that. Is that going to be something in the future that if they do drive a well, are they going to test the water before they go spread it among the surface? And then you have runoff into people's yards, you have runoff into swamps and streams and everything else. It's been well documented that by the Navy and by others that there is a good amount of contamination within that airbase, and due to its proximity, and there's a capped landfill not too far from the northeast sector of that proposed clearing. That's just something that comes to mind.
Can I recommend that we know that a well has the potential, but that would all be governed by, I believe, that's Board of Health.
Board of Health.
Yeah, they have their own set of rules and regulations. It's not something we can talk about. It's not really a zoning issue. But just like Shingle Mill, they have the opportunity to put a well in there if it's going to meet or exceed any written requirement, whether it's state or local, then it is what it is. So I'm gonna leave it there. So there's a possibility, just like there's a possibility that they could go septic. So there's a whole bunch of possibilities. Yep, Mary, you want to say something?
Yes, they can truck water in. There's such a thing as water trucks, so they can truck that in. Plus, there's not just one Superfund site. The the landfill that he's talking about is an unlined capped landfill that's a Superfund site. But a few feet in off of the cul-de-sac is where a gas station used to be, and that became another contaminated site. So you have to keep that into consideration of what you might draw up. So it's if you drop a well, you're better off probably just trucking your water in. There are companies that do that. Base uses them all the time.
It's not again, it's one of those, it's not worth talking about until they actually propose something. So, it's on the radar. I appreciate it, Mary. Thank you for that. It is definitely on the radar. So, anybody else want to speak in favor or oppose?
Yes, please.
Name and address for the record.
Sure. Kate Hanley, 1085 Union.
Okay.
So I mean, obviously it's just hearing voices, so I can reiterate a lot of what people said. I have small children. They're on the street all the time. The concern for safety where, we're not the only ones walking. There are elderly people that are walking in the street, families, people with dogs. So there's a lot of people to consider that use it to get to the base and take advantage of the walking paths there. Even parking at, the cul-de-sac at the end. It's definitely a neighborhood. I know I'm sorry, I don't know everyone's name. Mr. Galley had mentioned driving through the other neighborhood and noting how neighborhoody it was. But besides the fact that maybe the road is a little wider, you're going to get that at Union Street as well, with people parking on the sides, kids playing in the streets. It's the same. They're both neighborhoods with homes and families and small children. One of my questions just kind of goes back to the actual, I guess, appeal that's trying to come up. And I guess, I don't know if it ties more into the original one or this variance, but basically, you know, getting in to use the residential entrance based on the fact that, you know, it's going to be like non-offensive and all this stuff, and the dust and all that. But one of the questions I had is going into it, and I'm not even talking about construction, but going into it, like that's not, doesn't seem to be like the case as if, I don't know, you're storing mail trucks or something like that. Like there's going to be material, there's going to be things that you're going to have to make changes to have it fit into that. Do you know what I'm saying? So you're not going into, oh, we're going to fit with this new law to allow us to build here. We want to do that, but we're going to have to go in and we're actually not going to meet those requirements. We're just going to adjust what we do, whether you said, you know, you have a wall and plants, but as everyone's brought up, like dust flies, noise and vibrations can be felt. Even when the hockey rink went in, which was further back, you know, we were out playing in the yard and we could hear and feel that, and that was further away. So I don't know. I guess my concern is with like, how does that work? Like, how can you like maneuver, and whatever this is called? Again, I have no legal background. I'm a teacher of English, so this is not my forte. But in terms of saying this is what we're coming out doing, but then after you get this approved, you make it work to have it fit what you're doing. Does that make sense?
A little bit.
Okay, I can
A little
clarify if
bit.
needed.
First and foremost, I understand that there's a disconnect. All right. This is not your business. You don't know a lot of this stuff. The first thing you said was appeal. Do you mean the variance?
Yeah, well, I know that they didn't file it again. You guys didn't file it again. You just did a variance on the original one. But basically the whole thing was, and I wish I had that bylaw, that we can do what we're doing because we're not gonna have offensive materials, we won't have dust.
That's the special permit aspect.
Right, okay, so that's what I'm referring to. But
Okay.
with the permitting, to be able to do all this, right? Because that's what you guys, the company is coming in to build under that special permit, that it doesn't seem like that special permit will be 100% at the beginning met. It's that you will go in and you will actually like not meet that, but will make accommodations to meet that, like mentioning the water truck or covering the dust or I don't know.
I hear what you're saying.
Like even like the vehicles in and out, like we won't be, I don't know if that was part of the special permit, but like, oh, yeah, we're not going to move vehicles, but like, you know, you will and these are our times. And I know this was brought up last time, but what if a site needs a vehicle and construction usually begins at, I mean, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, construction sites are getting there. So the trucks are actually going to be, I mean, you're cutting it close to leave at 7 a.m. for a construction project. Based on how construction companies usually start. So I don't know, I guess that's all I have to say. I know time's gonna be running out, so I don't want to take away from others, but that's my concern.
No, I'd say it's an understanding of the special permit process. The applicant needs to prove that he, she, they, whoever, is thinking about every single thing that is required to be compliant with the special permit requirements. All the performance standards that Mr. Grady was talking about, they're basically stating that they know all the performance standards. Their proposal is to comply with all the performance standards. Their proposal is to comply with all the different licenses and requirements of different departments and boards and commissions and committees and state laws. So, and then in the instance where they need to, you know, zig when they thought they were going to have to zag, they're going to have to come back to us. So if there's like any kind of like major difference to what they're talking about right now, they're going to have to come back to us again. So they don't have to prove that they have a rock solid design right now. They just have to prove that they're thinking about it. And from the presentation that we've been given, It seems that they got it all. I mean, we have to go over it. We have to go over it and we have to discuss it. The other thing is there has been no appeal at this point, so I don't know what unless you're talking about the variance that they're requiring, I don't know. What you
Yeah,
mean.
yeah. Instead of, I think someone had mentioned, instead of sending it again, adding the variance on. I guess it's just a little bit of a scary thing to be like, yeah, we're gonna take care of it, and nothing is set. So then when things maybe don't happen, but it's already been allowed, now you're just tacked with a fine. And so for a company that has enough money to do all of this that's being done right now, a fine is a drop in the bucket. When you look at one company or one owner being allowed to have property opposed to the hundreds of other owners who are now affected by this, and it was allowed. So we now are, we're stuck. But there's a lot more freedom when you get the check mark, but now you just have to pay a fine for violating a time or having dust that flew today, But it doesn't really affect the people who are stuck with the negativity of that,
Ms. Hanley, I
Area
appreciate
the
your
family.
comments, and at this point, it has gone on to 9:46.
Yep.
So we're gonna close this hearing. We got to do it now. Board members, do you feel that you have enough information to be able to close this hearing? We're not going to be able to decide it tonight. We're going to have to push that out to another night.
Do we want to close it or just continue it to
That's
the next
Steve,
meeting?
Attorney DeLisi, I'm going to default to you on this one.
My preference would be a vote to close if you have the information. It's one thing if there's additional information that you want, but if we can close the hearing tonight and certainly continue to allow for deliberation, that would be an ideal situation. Thank you.
I'll make a
Thank you,
motion to
sir.
close the hearing.
I got a motion. Do I got a second?
Second.
I got a second over there. Okay, it's a bacon sandwich. All right,
on
roll
mute.
call. Mr. Tanzi?
Sorry about that. Yes.
Myself is a yes. Mr. Galley?
Yes.
Mr. Baker Jr.?
Yes.
Mr. Baker Senior?
Yes.
All right, here's closed. Let me just get my cheat sheet. All right. Where is my sheet? There it is. Yes, here we go. Open room hearing closed. Okay. All right. Attorney DeLisi, Mr. Grady, let's see. The board will not deliberate tonight. All right.
We'd like to request a continuance to the next available date, and if that's what I'm asking, and we'd be happy to submit a letter extending the time for a decision.
All right, Deb.
April 1st.
Okay, are we happy with
7:30.
that? Yes, does that work, everybody?
Yes.
Okay, April, and what time, Deb?
7:30.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to continue deliberation to said
I'll
date.
make the motion to continue deliberations to April 1st, 2025 at 7:30.
A second?
I already had a Baker raise his hand. I'm assuming he was another Baker. All right. So we're gonna go roll call. Mr. Tanzi?
Yes.
Yourself is a yes. Mr. Galley?
Yes.
Mr. Baker Jr.?
Yes.
Mr. Baker Senior?
Yes.
All right, guys. My cheat sheet's not gonna work here. So in the end, we're gonna deliberate on that date, on April 1st. And you guys can show up. You're welcome to show up. Once it's all said and done, you will receive a decision in the mail with a date stamp. 21 days from the date stamp on the decision, go to the town clerk's office, request a certificate of no appeal. If no one has appealed, the town clerk will give you a certification and a copy of the original decision. Take those to the registry of deeds and have them recorded. One of the conditions is always to show the building department proof of recording. So that should cover it. We'll see you guys if it's again, you can show up, you don't have to. April 1st. Maybe we'll see each other again.
Great. Thanks,
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for your time, everybody.
All right, let me just get to reading the other thing here. All right.
Can we take a bathroom break?
You gotta make it quick.
No, forget it. Go ahead. Keep
All right,
going.
hold on. All right, let me just read the thing here. All right, 7:35 PM, Shingle Mill LLC, discussion and proposed vote, request for determination of insubstantial change to the modified decision of the Board of Appeals for comprehensive permit under 760 CMR 5605, 7 CMR dot 56.0511. Discussion and proposed vote to approve request by attorney Maya D. Teviason, Maroney, Shaughnessy, and UD LLC to effectuate a de minimis amendment to the modified decision filed September 11, 2024 by expressly granting a waiver from 407-3 of, it says of the bylaw, but I mean, for specifics, it's the wetland bylaw, not the zoning bylaw. Did everybody read it?
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to. I
It's-
got it. I got it this afternoon.
All right. See, I don't know if I buy it. I don't, for some reason, there's something that's telling me that it's not necessarily a major, a minor change. Because we never got to see defined plans of what they were going to do. We got an idea of what they were going to do.
Did this go to town council?
It came from town council. It got forwarded to us from town council. And the only thing he said was we had to hear it within 20 days.
Oh,
I've got
yeah.
a comment out. I got a call into him. I got an email out to him to get some guidance on this, but we haven't seen, we saw a plan that had extra parking spaces, a little bit extra paving. It wasn't a big deal, and we were all kind of about it. But then we noticed that the wetlands line wasn't the same wetlands line that it was in the beginning.
Yeah, I remember that.
All right, and then we talked about it, and then Nova Armstrong got involved, and they said that they had never that nothing had been received. So I haven't seen anything that shows what they're now planning to do. So when you go back and you look at 5 and 7, no, not 5 and 7, 3 and 5, I appreciate what the wetlands bylaw is saying, but I also know that when you look at our decision, we partially accepted a waiver and we partially didn't accept a waiver. But what they're kind of trying to say is what they're trying to get at, I feel like, is that while they're not looking for an entire waiver to the entire wetlands bylaw, they're waiving the more important sections. That they're trying to get a full waiver on the more important sections. Hold on, Steve. I could be 100% wrong on this, but that's what I got based on my reading 4, 5, and 6 times, and then comparing it to the wetlands bylaw. Anybody else got anything to say on, please? Mr. Steve actually raised his hand first.
Yeah, really quick. It's a long-winded minimus request to change. I'm just curious, has Attorney Galvin had anything to say about it? Because we weren't sent any comments about his opinion on this.
No, we were sent comments about his opinion. His opinion was we have to hear this within 20 days. So
that was it.
That was it. It was just the timing of it. I
When
asked for guidance on this, and I've yet to get anything from him. Mr. Baker Jr.
Yeah, when did that clock start running on that 20 days, Ron?
The 10th,
The 10th.
yes.
10th.
So we're 8 days into
So
it.
you have until the 30th. Can I just say something?
Please.
If you want to wait for advice from council, the board could continue this to next Tuesday and still be within that 20-day period.
Here's the other thing. Is this only an action that the three of us, Mr. Tanzi, myself, and Mr. Baker Sr. are taking? Or is this something that the entire board is voting on?
I would say it's limited to the 3 voting members who voted on the principal matter.
That's what I was thinking too, but I don't know. Again, I'm looking for, I was looking for, he's at town hall right now. He's with the planning board at this point. not the planning board, the select. So, and there's something hot and heavy over there, I understand. So, and I don't like doing this, but I mean, I have a hard time, looking at this, thinking that it's de minimis without our land use council stating that he feels that it's de minimis.
And is consistent with the agreement that was reached previously.
Thank you.
Right. But the thing is, too, is if we continue this till next Tuesday, I'd like to send these guys a letter requesting their presence to explain this. What they were looking for.
I'd rather our council explain.
Yeah, I hear you. This is a Galvin thing. I don't want to hear their reason. They're just going to try and they're trying to sell us. They're trying to sell us a Chevelle. Huh?
Yeah. Well, let's take it. Why don't we just vote on it? We can vote on it.
You guys want to vote on it? Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to.
I'll say one thing. I'm not voting, but I would not want to vote without talking to Attorney Galvin.
Yeah, I mean, it's because if we put it this way, if we make the wrong choice,
yeah,
they're going to end up in court.
I'm going to blame it on Steve Galley.
Yes, and thank you very much. I appreciate that. I
am again.
We'll end up in court again.
I don't want to deal with that.
Again, I'm not a voting member. I would rather show up again for a meeting next Tuesday for something I'm not voting on than have you make a decision that's detrimental.
I agree
voting members, Mr. Tanzi, Mr. Baker Sr., and myself, can we make it next Tuesday night? We're the ones that are making that decision.
Yeah, we could do it.
Let me just look at my calendar. I have no life. So that's that. Yeah, I got nothing on the schedule at this point. So yeah, I can make that. So the 3 voting members, they can make it. Guys, Mr. Galley, Mr. Baker Jr., you don't have to show up, but your support is 100% appreciated. If you can show up, cool, that's great. You don't have to, but again, your support is 100% appreciated. So that means
their comments too.
Yeah, and I'd prefer to see how this gets deliberated. I'd like to see how
this is a learning thing for all of us.
Yeah, I want to see the decision-making process.
So I'll make a motion to
I'm making this motion. I make a motion that we continue this discussion and on to, what was it, March 25th
at 8 o'clock.
At 8 o'clock. Does that work for everybody? Because there's nothing else on, right?
Correct.
At 8 o'clock?
Why 8 o'clock? Why so late?
Because I have to be at planning board at 7, and unless you want to start without me.
Please.
It's up to the board.
8 o'clock. 8 o'clock. I make a motion for March 25th at 8 o'clock.
Second.
Okay, there's a second. Roll call. Mr. Tanzi?
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Mr. Baker Sr.?
Yes.
Okay. Deb, can you put in a call or shoot an email to Galvin and tell him we want him here?
Yes.
Next Tuesday?
Yes.
He'll probably be at the planning board meeting too.
What's the?
Oh, no, I'm not sure if he will be. He may be. I'll find out. I'll email him in the morning.
What's the plan? What's the planning board meeting?
Well, Allison's presenting ADU bylaw and other proposed bylaws, I believe.
All right. We'll talk about that
But
tomorrow.
she's on the agenda first.
All right. I'm gonna want to see a copy of that.
If he's not going to be available for this Tuesday,
yeah,
you want to make it put it in a thing that if he's not available Tuesday, we'll have the hearing on Wednesday.
No, he's gonna have to. No, he's gonna have to be there on Tuesday.
He's gonna have to.
He's gonna have to be there on Tuesday because I guarantee it. He's already looked at the proposed bylaw. If he's already looked at the proposed bylaw, then he doesn't have to be there. All right. If he's already looked at it, then if it wouldn't be going to planning board at this point if he hadn't looked at it first. So that's my gut feeling, and we should.
You're right.
I think in this case, this should trump the planning board, because this is dealing with a case, not dealing with something that the planning board has already looked at, has already talked about, and modifications to that proposed bylaw should have already been made. So that's my feeling on it. So unfortunately, Deb, this is falling in your lap tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Do we need any advice from him for Union Street? As verbiage from the.
Yeah, I hear you. Deb, you're reaching out to him anyway, so just do me a favor and ask him if he can be there for that meeting too, for the deliberation end of it. And obviously, okay, we've done that. We've continued that, saying we've already started talking about non-deliberative announcements and scheduling. Let's see, March 31st, 2025 is current expiration date for remote meetings. So if
April 1st is gonna be live.
I guess at this point,
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
There is a bill pending in the legislature to extend it for 2 years.
Yeah.
The last I heard, it was in the Senate yesterday. I don't know what's happened to it. It hasn't been signed yet, as far as I know. But the governor has expressed her support for it as well.
Right.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
We'll have to check with Doug.
Well, be prepared.
It's on everybody's radar.
Yeah, exactly. So everybody just be prepared that as of April, as of meeting on April 1st, we may be in person on that one. So it is what it is. We'll figure it out when it comes time.
But excuse me, the 25th though, we can be remote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, everything up to the 31st at this point.
Correct.
So yeah, we'll just hold that.
Motion
what else we got? Well, hold on. Deb hasn't given us the okay to get out of here.
That was all I had, was I just wanted, there is a possibility that April 1st may be live over at the lecture hall.
Okay. All right. Well, that works. So there we go. Now, Mr. Baker Senior, would you like
Motion
to
adjourn?
And
Second.
do I have there's that one, another Baker. Mr. Tanzi?
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Mr. Galley?
Yes.
Mr. Baker Jr.?
Yes.
Followed up, Mr. Baker Senior?
Yes.
Rock and roll. All right. Thank you,
Thank you,
gentlemen.
everyone.
Thank you, general
Bye.
public, for
Thank you.
coming. We'll